Alright, so welcome back into this video drop for your Capstone project. During your platformer project first semester, the camera followed us endlessly, but in classic action RPGs like Zelda, the world is broken up into distinct rooms. We want the camera to sit perfectly still, framing our character and framing our current area, and only glide to the next area when we cross a boundary. So to do this, we're not going to drag one camera around the map. We're going to use an old industry standard for 2D dungeons, a one camera per room system. Before we start creating our Cinemachine cameras, we need to check a few things with our main camera. So go ahead and click on it, make sure that it's set to orthographic, because otherwise it's gonna struggle with a few things here. Since this is a 2D game, as long as you press 2D project, you should already be in orthographic. But if it's just check the projection. If it says perspective, click on it and switch to orthographic. You should already have Cinemachine package installed, but if you don't, come up here to Window, go to Package Management, Package Manager. It's under Unity Registry. All you gotta do is in the search history, just type in CINE and it'll pop up. And then right here for me it says locate. For you it'll say install. So you just click that, wait a couple minutes, and then it'll install into your project. So as you see here, I have two rooms, right? I have them different colors because I'll need you to be able to see the sword for that video when we do that one. Room 1 here, room 2 here. You're also going to want to create two empty game objects. So we're going to right click in our hierarchy, go to create empty. We're going to choose we're going to name it room 1 bounds. Now this we're going to copy the positional data for room 1 and put it on room 1 bounds. So what we're going to do here is click on room 1 in the transform, click on these dots, come down here to copy and choose position, go down to room bounds. We're going to click on these three dots in their transform, come down here to paste and choose position, and that'll center it right there with room 1. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a component. We're going to add a polygon collider 2D. Just because of the way your Cinemachine works, we're going to need to use this polygon collider for the tracking purposes. Don't know why, but for some, I have to look it up, but for some reason it doesn't work well with the box collider. So in your polygon collider, click on this little edit points option. You need to be very careful when you're doing this. Click only the corner points. If you click these side points, it's going to add a point there, and then you're going to have more to move. So just take the corners and fill it out to about the length of the room. You can even come down here to where is it? Points, path, make the size 4 if you want to make it easier for yourself, and then you can come back here and then re-edit it. That way it's actually a square and you don't have to worry about it. That's probably easier to do, so go ahead and do that, and I'll show you in the next, I'll walk you through the second one also, because we got to do this a second time. Alright, so that one's all set. Now what we're going to do is we're going to right click, create empty. We're going to name it room 2 underscore bounds. And just like with before, we're going to take our room 2, we're going to copy that transform position data, paste it over the room 2 bounds position data to center it up. We're going to go ahead, oh, that's what I forgot. Room 1 bounds, make sure this is a trigger. I don't want that to be a trigger. Alright, room 2 bounds. So add a polygon collider 2D. We're going to go to points, change the size to 4. and then click on is trigger to make that checkbox. Edit collider, we're going to go ahead and edit it by dragging the points into the corners. As best as you can. Just like that. And now that that's set up, now I believe we can get into the code. So first thing is, in our player controller, we need to actually make this last motion vector public, because we're going to do access that from another code. We're also going to add this public boolean is frozen. So what this is going to be is this is an on-off switch that will be controlled by a script that you are going to create called camera zone. Controlled by camera zone. That way you can see, put comments in so that you can see what each one is doing. Alright, in our update function, we're going to add a new if check. We're going to check to see if the camera is transitioning. What will happen is the camera will trigger this is frozen boolean and switch it to true. And if it is true, then we're going to stop the player movement and set the float speed to 0 to force the idle animation, and then exit this loop. And then the camera will do the rest of the code itself. The camera zone code will do the rest of it itself. So go ahead and save this and go back into Unity. Alright, in Unity you're going to want to create a new mono behavior script. We're going to name this camera zone, and then you can open that up. Alright, so in traditional 2D Zelda games, the player, once he hits the trigger and it transitions to the room, he's frozen in place and he's pushed forward. So what we're going to first do is we're going to set up our variables in this camera zone script. We're going to need to access Unity's Cinemachine tools as well as the systems.collections namespace. We're going to create this public variable for the Cinemachine camera. This is going to be where we assign the camera room, and then we have our transition settings, how long the player is going to be frozen for before he can move, and how far to push the player into the room as it transitions. Alright, so next we're going to add an on trigger enter 2D and an on trigger exit 2D. So what this is going to be doing is it's going to use the brain of the Cinemachine camera, which we still have to create, and it's going to look at which one has the highest priority. So we're telling it if we're first checking to see if the thing touching it is actually the player. If it is, then we're going to run this code. We're going to check again if the camera's priority is greater than or equal to 10. If it is, then don't do anything. We're going to add this because if you don't, then when you first start the game, or when the game loads into the room, it's going to push the player downward a little bit. So this prevents it from thinking that the player just entered the room and running this transition sequence coroutine that's we're going to define here in just a few moments. Alright, once it exits, if the player exits the trigger, then it's going to drop the camera's priority back to 0 so that the next room can take over. Right, so this is just a fail-safe to make sure that we don't get stuck with the camera looking in the starting room. And this is a fail-safe so that in the starting room it prevents the player from being pushed when the game first loads. Alright, so next is our transition sequence coroutine. This is going to do a lot of things, so try to follow along as best as you can. Pause the video when you need to. So this coroutine allows us to pause the code execution over time. First, we're going to reach out to the player and set is frozen to true. Okay, so that's what this bit of code is going to do here. We're going to search for the player controller on the player object. All Alright, we're gonna make sure that we're gonna create a push direction and set it to 0. We're gonna say if the player is not equal to null, so if it finds it, then set frozen as to true, and then push the player in its last motion, in the direction of its last facing. This next bit of code here is going to deal with camera movement. Okay, so we're gonna spike the new rooms per hammer priority to 10, so it's gonna take over following the player. Okay, and then after that, what it's gonna do is while the camera is moving, we're gonna push the player so that they don't get stuck in the doorway. We're gonna calculate the target spot slightly ahead of them, and we'll use a while loop combined with a vector 3 dot lerp. Lerp stands for linear interpolation, which is basically just a fancy term for smoothly slide from point A to point B. This loop runs every single frame, gently pushing a player forward until our 1 second timer is up. Finally, the timer ends, the camera stops, and then we set is frozen to false so that the player can move again. So let's go ahead and press Ctrl S. Let's go into Unity. That's going to compile. Now, there's a couple of things we need to do. First, player. Click on the player. Make sure that your player is tagged player. It should be already, but if it's not, just make sure that it is. The next thing is we have to create our actual Cinemachine cameras for the rooms. So, right click in your hierarchy, come down to Cinemachine, and we're going to choose, what do we want? We'll use the Cinemachine camera. We don't need a targeted one. Name it to camera room 1, and then we're going to name this one, and then we'll duplicate it, and then this one will be named camera room 2. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want these actually centered in as best as possible on the player. So I'm going to change the orthographic size down, maybe. Alright, there we go. Alright, we're going to bring this down back to 5 where it was, and we're going to center this. Oh, that's camera room 2. We want camera room 1. So camera room 1, I'm going to bring that down to size, and we're going to try to center this in on room 1. You can have a little bit of overlap, that's fine. We're going to do the same thing with camera room 2. We're going to bring this over. Just like that. Alright, so in our room bounds, we're going to go ahead and drag our camera zone over onto each of them. So for this room camera, we're going to make sure that room camera 1 is in the room 1 bounds room camera slot. We're going to click on room bounds 2, put our camera zone in there. Whoops. Room bounds 2, camera zone in there. Put room camera 2 in there, and then we also need to come up here to camera room 1, and we're going to choose this priority button because that's where our player is starting from. We're going to change the value to 10. That way it's the priority camera and it executes that slide prevention code. Let's go ahead and press save so nothing crashes. Alright. Now it's the moment of truth. Let's press play. And we'll walk over to the left. And there we go. The camera transitioned. The player froze for a minute and was pushed forward. And it works if we go the other direction as well. And there we go. I'll see you in class.